Hey everybody, Alan Warren here, the RV Wingman, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. You know that many of the stories that I cover are about the challenges and pitfalls that RV owners face, things that they wish they'd done differently. But today you're going to hear a story that is the complete opposite. You're going to be meeting Joe and his wife, Domani. They're full-time RVers who are not just happy campers, but they seem to have mastered the art of making all the right moves. So, what does it take to really become a happy camper? Well, it's a whole lot more than just luck. It's about doing your homework, having a good attitude, and making smart decisions every step of the way. From finding the right RV dealer to finding the right RV, of course, and even getting a thorough inspection before you buy. Now, speaking of inspections, Joe and Domani worked with the folks from it's called Blue Ox on the Run. Blue Ox on the Run RV Inspections, a company that they credit with saving them a ton of time, a lot of money, and endless headaches. You'll hear more about their experience throughout the interview. And by the way, if you'd like to do business with some of America's most trusted RV dealers, you'll find links to them in the description down below. Let's go ahead and get started. My objective is to try and tell positive stories if I can. You know, most of the stories that I do on my channel are not very positive, but when people do the right thing and they're happy campers, it's
Yeah.
always great. So I know very little about you except you happen to be right now traveling through Texas. What is your story? Y'all are supposedly happy campers. It looks like you're in a motor home. What do you have? How long have you owned it? And let's get to know each other a little bit.
Sure, go ahead. Well, historically, we've been homeowners, and we at one time had a couple of houses, and we decided about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, that we were trying to simplify things in life, and that we had switched our priorities. We worked very hard both of our lives. We don't have any children, and wanted to make sure that we were still healthy and active, that we could go out and see some of the things that we were unable to do when we were dedicated to our jobs. So we, long story short, sold everything we had, and don't have a storage unit or anything. We bought a 2023 Newmar 4065 when they were producing 2025 models. So there was incentives, and we
Hang on. Joe, what was it? A brand new unit?
Brand new.
It was a brand new, yes.
Okay.
Which I think is important. Yeah, I think that's going to be important. We'll circle back to that later.
Okay.
But when we were going through this process and knowing that Domani was going to likely work full-time and myself full-time, hopefully doing something on the road, and this is still kind of a very fluid situation other than Domani is still full-time working. So we needed at least space, dedicated space, so that when she'd shut down at the end of the day, it wasn't a matter of taking everything off the kitchen table and putting it away, and then the next morning setting everything up. So that's why we chose the 4065, because it was a bunkhouse, and I had intentions on modifying the bunkhouse into some workspace. So that's what started the journey. April 1st of 2024, we took delivery. And
329.
Right.
Because we had to get it before the end of March or we'd lose our incentives.
Right.
We literally had to drive it out of the parking lot and back in just to make sure we got the incentives.
Right. And we've been in conversation. I'm sorry. We've been in conversation with it. Yeah, I was going to say.
From a dealer.
Yes, that's correct.
It's a Newmar, which has got a great reputation.
Right.
Have you ever owned an RV before?
Yes, we had an SMS truck camper that we used extensively, and then
and we've rented
travel trailers, annually when we weren't using the truck camper. So at least once a year, we always went to the Indy 500, and so we always stayed at the track, and we always had a motorhome. So there was always at least one annual trip, which was kind of a long trip because we lived on an island in Wisconsin, and so it was a almost week trip to get from Wisconsin to Indiana. It's crazy.
Yeah, but historically, we've done a lot of camping with our truck. When we first got it, because we got it intentionally because we had dogs, we couldn't really travel easily with the dogs without it, so we ended up getting the truck camper. We used to go places 3-4 times a year at least back then, and kind of wore that out. The truck camper was not in great shape anymore, so we kind of got away from it, started renting when we were still going to Indy 500. And then we just got tired of home maintenance and just being stuck in a place. You know, we wanted to explore, we wanted to do things, and to Joe's point, we want to do all we can while we're still, you know, healthy enough.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so
it's certainly
you purchased this in the spring of 24, is that
Four.
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
24.
Just about a year ago.
Mhm.
And you've still got the same Newmar motorhome. Are you
Yep.
happy with it? Are you happy?
Yes,
Oh,
I'm very
thrilled.
very happy with it. And I was going to say that was one of the things I wanted to at least address is that in our search for how we were going to transition from sticks and bricks, as they say, to
Mhm.
full time or mostly RVing, we spent a lot of time researching RVs, the construction, the builds, and we knew that there was going to be an awful lot of things that we would have to get educated on, and we weren't sure about what class we wanted. Initially, we thought we could get away with a B plus, something like leisure
Yeah.
travel. No,
We laugh about it now.
yeah, now you have to take everything with you and safely move. The contents that you put in one of these. So then we knew we needed to get an inspection, just to kind of cover ourselves to make sure that there's things that I'm a pretty handy guy, but I don't work on RVs and I don't work on big trucks. I've worked on F-250 Fords and stuff like that, but
Uh-huh.
nothing of this caliber. So we knew we needed to get somebody lined up to help us, and we stumbled upon somebody's thread on YouTube, and we contacted that outfit and just said, "Hey, we're Blue Ox." And we told them that we were looking at RVs, and we had a spreadsheet of all the different 4065s that were available for purchase,
Mhm.
but most of them were still out of our price range. And so we were just watching to see what was going on. And I figured if it was a new or used, we would probably want to have it inspected. So we decided that when we were still not, we still hadn't made the decision we wanted to get into a Super C. We tried to rent one, and we
Mhm.
actually were able to rent a Renegade Verona for 5 days. And
Yeah.
it was arguably, I think, the most valuable money that we had spent because initially I knew that there was concerns about Aqua Hot 250s and some of the other furnaces that are out there. So I went through some of the basic questions that I was concerned about so that I had a pleasurable 5 day trip because I was spending over $300 a day to rent it. And
Right.
well, it broke. We had no, I mean, the unit did not break, but the heating
The heating.
broke, which meant we didn't have hot water and we didn't have the ability to warm the coach either.
On vacation with no hot water.
But it was really
Yeah.
good experience. It was a really good experience because it taught us before we were transitioned, hey, this is something you're going to have to deal with. You need to contact the mobile tech. You're going to have to get the parts, and and you're going to have to basically marry yourself to staying home for a day, even if it's on vacation, until this
So it,
gets
it was it was not a good experience at the time, but it gave you the experience to move forward in a positive way.
And we also
Yep.
spent like 9 hours on a couch, and I'm not bad mouthing. If you'd asked me a year and a half ago, what was your dream coach? I'd tell you it was a Renegade because I
Really?
really thought that
We were ready. We were ready to buy it.
when we toured that factory, we toured Dynamax's factory, and we were lined up to tour Jayco's. But by the time we got through the other two, we kind of run out of time, and we
Mhm.
had to go back. And we never got to tour the Newmar factory, but I did know enough about the construction of it. 16 inches on center, and they actually advertised the R values of their sidewalls and roof construction in their brochures, and longer wheelbases, an awful lot of reasons. And everybody's got their own budget and rationale for buying the unit they choose to.
But
And
why
we
did you
chose
get
this one. We
why
chose
did
this
you get
one for
the
the
outside
construction.
inspection? Why did you get the outside
Well, I
inspection?
think,
Because hey,
yeah.
hang on, Domani, just a
Well,
second. It's a new bar. I
right,
mean, it's
new,
hang
But
on.
it's made.
It's what?
It's made. It's made.
right.
It's like it's not going through a production line like cars are, right? And
Hmm.
and I don't think people think about it like this, but would you buy a house without an inspection?
Absolutely not.
It wouldn't matter if it's new or used, right? You never buy a house without an inspection. This is a house. This is
What
a
did the
house on
dealer say?
wheels.
What did the
It's
dealer
kind
say?
of funny because
The dealer was okay though.
and I got nothing but praise about the dealer. He
Yeah.
was actually the last guy I called because he had not moved his price from somewhere in between list and what we paid. And everybody else that I was working with was already been aggressively moving pricing, but
Hmm.
it would have taken some changes in the units. We had specific things that we wanted. And if we could get it, we could get it. And if we couldn't afford it, we'd buy a used one. We already came to that conclusion that
Right.
it was still going to be warranted. But we were juggling with making that decision because we were purchasing a 23 coming out of the pandemic, where there was concern on the street that not only the RVs, but the products that were being used within the RVs may have suffered from lack of workforce, lack of technical skills, and some of those
Right.
things because those workers were taken off production lines during the pandemic. And I do think it warrants at least saying that an awful lot of the rumors and complaints about RVs and that industry, I think that came out during the pandemic, might be because of lack of understanding what RV life is from people that just got into it during the pandemic because they had the ability to hit the road.
Right.
So if you don't know
Right.
what you're doing and you have bad experiences, the first thing you do is point blame. You know, it might not be the product; it might be the user's lack of understanding how to use the product. I think that's just something that.
But I do think it's pretty normal with any of these. It doesn't matter if it's new or used. That it's like the way I always describe it to people: you're driving your home down the road. It's like an earthquake. It's going through an earthquake every day, the entire time you're driving it. So even if everything is perfect, there's still things that are going to get shook loose. Like, for example, with just yesterday, our external camera disconnected just from braking hard, like it's like things like that most people, I don't think, know what to look for, even if they're
Well, let
buying
me ask
something.
you. Let me go back to when you were purchasing. So it's a springtime a year ago, and you had decided you guys wanted to get an independent outside inspector. Did the dealer give you a problem though? Did they push back? What was that dynamic
No,
like,
no.
and how did it
Say
work?
so.
And I'm glad you brought that back up because I was going to mention that as well. So we had now found the unit. We had already been talking to Pure and Laurel about we're going to send you somewhere, but we don't know where. But we think it's either going to be Colorado or Texas. And he's like, "Well, Joe, we need to know." And I said, "I understand, and I've got a deadline on when I need you to actually perform the inspection because there's a big incentive hanging over this that I want to take advantage of, and I'm going to lose
Right.
that if I can't close the deal. I'm not going to close the deal until I know I'm buying something that's not horrific. If it's something
Right.
that can be fixed back at the manufacturer, then that's fine. But and given the fact that you had asked about having an inspection on a new unit, you have to understand this as well. Domani and I lived on Washington Island in Wisconsin, which is a boat ride to Peninsula and then a long way to Texas if we were to drive. So for us to actually physically go and inspect this unit ourselves would have taken days, and it would have been costly, not to mention time off of work. So depending
Well,
on
and you might have found things
But not
yourself because you're handy and you've done a lot of work on homes and things and cars and everything else. So you might have found some of it, but you wouldn't have found the things that we
No,
found in
but
an inspection,
use
even
it
if we did go
if you
ourselves.
if you use the inspection, I think as a tool, it can be a cost savings one way or the other. Ours was a huge cost savings. Now I'll get to that right now. When we did get to the dealer after it was inspected, and we just met Pure and Laurel at the end of the day. I really didn't want to hang all over them.
Before you get into that, I think he wants to understand how the dealer was the dealer receptive.
That's where I was going.
Was the dealer receptive to having this
They
outside?
were comfortable. You could tell they were fine. You could tell that they weren't thrilled, but they were very nice about it. They never said no. They never made a big deal out of it or anything like that.
And in fairness, right, from the dealer's perspective, you're asking me to take a third party, put them on my property, give them water, give them electric, and anything else they want to ask. We're going to have to dump the tanks right after they're done testing, things like that. And it's potentially that my customer's going to walk away because of the findings on a new unit. So they do have some cost. It might be soft dollar expenses on having a third party come in and inspect a new unit or a used unit. I think that they're not concerned about the risk of things surfacing on the new unit because the manufacturer's there to back them up. It's not like they need to sell a used unit and they need to, you know what I mean? They don't want the inspection to actually cause a potential customer not to buy the unit, knowing there's no manufacturer's warranty in place.
So you bought this unit sight unseen. You saw pictures of it, but you never even you hired an inspector, somebody that you didn't know.
Correct.
Right?
I mean, I knew them like I know you.
It worked out. I mean, we got lucky and it worked out that we were able to get ourselves there at the same time that Pierre and Laurel were there to inspect. So we were able to see it before we signed everything. And we had it, our plan was to get there a couple of days before, so we can do our own personal walkthrough and say, yes, this is what we want. But for us, the most important thing was the inspection, because we had seen enough videos. We had been, seen enough different RV units. We knew what we were looking for and what we wanted. And so seeing it in person wasn't really going to be the thing that was going to say yes or no for sure. It was, is the condition of this unit what we expect?
So
That was our big thing.
what did they find? I mean, not a big long list, but did
No,
Pierre
so
and Laurel find
that's what I was
anything?
gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. So we go back to the dealer after the inspection is done. So Pierre and Laurel spent all day there. I think they left at probably 3:30, 4 o'clock, and got there early. And then the next morning we went in, and they had overnighted me. Or, he had performed his recap, which is a report that's so comprehensive. It's unbelievable when you get it. The wording, the pictures, the videos. It truly is. I really think it's an asset to any motor coach owner to have, whether you do it yourself or you have this type of an inspection, but you've actually got documentation, much like in aviation, a book of all of the different things that they found. So we go to the dealer the next day at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and he goes, okay, he goes, let me see what your fancy inspector found. And I go, well, actually, and we had a number of things. And I can tell you, because we're still under warranty with Newmar, and I'm working actively with Newmar on some issues as I'm speaking with you right now. We're going back in May, which is outside of our actual 1 year, but they're honoring the fact that we can't get there for an extra couple months. And they're still
because we've reported it.
Because we reported it, right. Yeah. But we have now got, I'm up to number 98. I've got 98 individual items that have been addressed. Yes.
Yes. But some of them are teeny tiny little things, like a piece of wood is loose. So, those kind of things.
Right.
The major things aren't that many. How many were on the list from the inspection?
I think we put 28. I mean, we were there for 10 days. We were at Newmar for 10 days from the first inspection. And
the biggest issues were from the inspections.
Right. And they were ones that I would never caught. One of them was on the cab cap. So if you're thinking on a Super C, so the truck cab on the top is a cap. And sometimes the cap houses the bunkhouse. Sometimes it's just fitted with cabinets like ours. Well, Newmar keeps theirs separate. I don't even know if this matters whether or not the air cab is separate or not. But two things. In this case, it does. There's a baffle that they call the rainbow, which is basically a big piece of rubber, and it's a gasket that fits in between the coach and the front of the truck so that they work independently as you're going down the road. And then there's actually stress to lock that cap back up when you shut the truck off. So it's all locked in position when you're sitting. Ours had a little tear in the gasket when it was coming away. And when Pierre was up on the roof, he noticed that in that cap structure, behind the fascia, so you have to be actually on the roof and then actually hanging almost on the cab, all of it had hairline cracks where they had
hairline crack all the way across
around
the entire length of it.
Wow.
Right.
I mean, we would have never found that until it was leaking. Right. Until we had water in our cab, we would have never known.
By the time I got those two items, and then there was a third one, which was my slide was just was out of tilt. The trim was put on incorrectly, not level, let's say it that way. But by the time I got to, I think, the third or fourth thing on my list, the general manager at the store we bought it from actually was, what did you see? Paid for that inspection? And I told him, which was a lot. And he goes, well, you've got that back 3 or 4 times probably already. Now, like I said,
hang on. Did the dealer know these things, or was this news to the dealer, or do you know?
It was news to the dealer. We think it was news to the dealer. Yeah. There were probably some of the minor things that they probably knew, but we knew that they were even just tweaking things as they were seeing things while we were talking to them and looking at the unit. So, it wasn't like the dealer wasn't looking for things, but an inspector is just going to look way more detailed.
Right.
They're catching the surface things. They're not digging in and doing climbing on the roof and looking at that baffle and making sure it's all right. I mean, the things that the inspector does, and, we only dealt with Pierre and Laurel, so I can't really speak for other inspectors, but they're very thorough. I mean, Laurel ran water for every single item in the house and let it run. Check the temperature on the stove to make sure it was accurate. Like things like that. And she found small things like the shower was leaking. It was just missing some caulk. The dealer probably should have caught that, but unless they were sitting running the water and like as if somebody was taking a shower, you might not catch that kind of thing.
So Joe, you guys paid a lot of money for the. I mean, you don't need to tell me how much, but it sounds like you flew a couple of people down to the dealership, and then they spent all day, and then they spent however much time preparing the reports and all that.
Yep.
It sounds like you spent a lot of money, and a lot of people would go, "Well, I could just save that money," but you guys are happy that you spent that money.
Let me give you this example, okay? Because I think a lot of people go, I could do that, and like I said, I'm a pretty handy guy, I think. I would
he had a handyman business.
I would have not caught something like this. So there was a concern about the inverter and whether or not the inverter was properly charging. And it surfaced when Pierre was running through his diagnostics on the charging system, because I had mentioned something initially when we went to look at the coach that we needed to add some fuel to the coach to start the generator, because there was like less than a quarter of the tank and you can't run the generator with less than a quarter tank. So we really started focusing on the charging a little bit. And what came up during this process was that after the inverter, when we were doing the load tests, that the signaling coming in, we were still getting 110 volts, but we were getting 80 hertz after the inverter and 60 hertz coming in, and we couldn't figure out what was off. Why is this not right? Is it somewhere on the shore side? Is it? And then we'd run the generator and we couldn't get we weren't seeing that the batteries are actually charging in the right fashion. We could just literally go from no shore power, just inverter power, and just watch everything start draining down in front of us. And I'm like, I don't even know where I would start to look. The easiest, so we start replacing parts, right? Like, and then you start looking at what the cost of parts are like would be, and that'd be $4,000 for an inverter. Well, that wasn't it. And so at what point and how long would it have taken Domani and I to lean on the generator charging system to actually function the way it was designed before we found out that it was in a failure state? Now, that came up in the inspection, and so we knew that we needed to address that sooner than later. The dealer did go ahead and do a hard reboot on the whole electrical system, and that did fix and correct that problem. So that was not something we really needed to carry as something we needed to address when we got to Napanee. But like I said, I can sum it up this way. I've got 15 days already in Napanee Service Center, and I'm not complaining. They can't make the experience any better. And we're scheduled to probably be there another 5 or 6 because I got some paintwork that I needed to have done. And if they work 8 hours a day, and you can call them and find out what their labor rate is, but I'll say it's around $200 to make the math easy.
Yeah.
Figure out how many hours are in those days that I just told you, times 200, and you could probably triple what I paid for my inspection. I'd still be ahead if I didn't find those issues, right? That's the thing. If you don't use your RV, we use ours a lot right now. We're finding issues because we're using it. So
I don't think people realize, think through. You have 1 year warranty for most things.
Everything,
for most things, not the engine, but for most things. And when you get the inspection, it for at least Blue Ox, one of the reasons we went with Blue Ox is because we watched their videos, we saw how they operated, we learned about the type of reporting they give you. They give you such a detailed report. It had video clips of things like when he found the hairline fracture, he's pushing his thumb down so you can see how it separates it, in the video so that they can clearly see the issue. Right. So all we had to do was take what they gave us, give it to Newmar and say, this needs to be fixed. So that's how we started our very first appointment. We had our first appointment scheduled with them before we left the dealer because we already had this whole list of items where if we didn't do that, we would have had to live in it for a while to find some of them. We still would have found that crack. And there were other things we wouldn't have found. And this way we walked in before we left the dealer, we had a appointment already working with Newmar. They already knew all the issues we had. And then we were able to use the RV and send additional things for them to cover while we were there. And now we're going to be on our third trip, like Joe said, which sounds like a lot. And, for us, we just planned it that way. We wanted to make sure we got all of our warranty items covered. So we knew we were going to be traveling a lot. So we're like, okay, we're just going to keep scheduling until we run out of time. And we're just going to keep tracking things. But again, all the things we found, great that we got them fixed, right? But the things that the inspector found, some of them we would have, like the water leaking in the shower, would have figured that out easily, right?
But it sounds like to me that you guys were able to use the report to not only get the stuff fixed, but to get peace of mind. Peace of mind.
Yes.
On top of it, I expressed my concern with having to go to Indiana from Texas, which is 1,800 miles about. And I said, that's on my fuel. I would pay for that fuel. And the dealer said, well, I'll compensate you. What do you want? And he threw a number at me, and I go, yeah, that'd probably get me there. And he goes, all right. And he goes, I'll give you more then, because I want you to be happy. So,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if they've got a relation with Newmar, or if selling Newmar kind of comes with a little white glove treatment. But honestly, I can't say good enough things.
I mean, he was the one that said, let's get you scheduled with Newmar. When things came up with on the inspection, he went through it, the little things that they could easily fix, but most of them, they said, you can use your RV with those things. Let's get you to Newmar where they're going to do the right job, get it fixed, because they built it. Right. And he didn't try to say, hey, we can fix it and you'll be on your way and you're all good, and try to placate us. So we had a really good dealer. We had a really good inspection. The other benefit, the other thing I don't think people realize, he's very handy. So he can figure out a lot of this stuff. Most people just don't have that experience with how everything works and what to look for and things. Like I said, Joe might have found a lot of the things that that the inspector found. But if you're not somebody who's used to looking for those kind of things or knowing how to fix those kind of things, getting an inspection and having that detailed list, like I said, with the videos that you can just hand off and say, fix this. Because I didn't have to try to explain what it is, how to fix it. It was all in the report.
So you guys, obviously, you love Blue Ox, and it sounds like they do a great job. But from an advice standpoint, if you were giving me some advice, I hear and I watch some of these YouTube videos that dealers have actually turned down and refused to allow some inspectors to come and inspect, like Blue Ox.
Yeah.
Right. If you were I'm not trying to bash any dealer specifically, okay?
Yeah.
But to me, if a dealer says no, you can't have that inspector
if they said no,
you're hiding something.
We already knew if they said no, we couldn't have it inspected. We were walking away. We had that was already in our minds. I mean, we've heard a lot of that.
Everything.
We're in various Facebook groups that talk about their experiences. We've heard all of that as well. We got lucky. We had a great dealer that was really happy to work with us. They wanted us to be happy in the coach. They wanted us to take the coach. And even when we had it inspected, Newmar did a video. If you go look at our video from our inspection, look at the comments, walk away, walk away, walk away. And
really?
He was handy enough to know that we could get these things fixed, but we also had a dealer that was working with us to get us into the warranty right away. And we knew it was under warranty. We were able to talk directly with the dealer right away. Like, he connected us right to the contact we needed to work with while we were there. So we were able to exchange emails and understand they were going to be able to resolve it. None of that would have happened without an inspection, a really good inspection. And yeah, we're thrilled with Blue Ox. I don't know other inspectors. I'm sure there's a lot of really good ones, but if a dealer's telling you you're not, there's a bigger problem. I mean, there were other RVs that we looked at. There was one, we talked to them about it. It was a used one. The price just seemed too good to be true. Yeah. And we're talking to them about it. And you could just feel by talking to them that something was wrong, that they were not telling us everything.
Right.
So we're like, we're done. We're walking
Well,
away
Joe,
from that.
Joe,
You have
let
to
me
go
ask
with your
you
gut.
this.
Yeah.
I have said for years that I believe too many people focus on the price and not enough on the dealer, because the
Yeah.
relationship you have with the dealer becomes everything after you drive away. And people are oftentimes focusing on the price and, oh, we get those, and they end up leaving, and they've chosen the wrong dealer is what I'm saying. How important. I think some of the stuff is you guys got lucky, but at the same time you did your homework. You got a great
Yeah.
inspector, you got a great product, you took your time, you bought it when you got some incentives. The planets aligned for you, but you did the homework to make that happen, and you chose a great dealer.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that I'm glad you touched on all those things, because there was a lot of it that was timing, right? Because if you would have flashed back during the pandemic, when there was a demand for RVs and the manufacturers couldn't supply them, started reducing the number of floor plans that they were manufacturing and things just to get product out there, that was a different game. The consumer is in a different position now. I think the dealers are back to trying to work harder. Like you said, like we said, we had a great experience with the dealer, but there's really no reason you shouldn't have a great experience with any dealer. They're there to service
Right.
and hopefully be your ombudsman between your purchase
Yeah.
and the manufacturer to make sure that you're happy, and hopefully come back for another one, or tell a friend,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
I mean, we talked to several dealers while we were doing it, because we were making calls to ask about, different things about the different units. And there was, a couple that we had honed in on that were really responsive. You could tell they were honest in their answering of questions, because they were telling us the bad things too,
Mhm.
So we felt good. And we also did a lot of online research to see what people were saying, right? So we had 2 or 3 that we were like, okay, I think we're okay buying from them, but we always were talking about an inspection. And I go back to a house. Like, if you were buying a house and brand new house, and the builder said, and you said, I need to have an inspection, the builder said no, would you buy that house? I
No
would
way.
never buy that house. So why
Right.
would you buy a motorhome
Which is
if they refuse to do an
which is
inspection?
which I think is, it probably warrants touching on this. When people think motorhome, RV, motor coach, however you want to sum it all up, it's a lot of moving pieces. It is just a smorgasbord of manufacturers. I mean, you have got, the chassis company, the motor company, and that's what I've been talking about. Your generator might be a completely different brand. All the different components. You're lucky if your microwave and your refrigerator both are Whirlpool, for example.
Right.
Sometimes there's all different pieces. Everyone's got a different warranty. That's up to you as the owner to manage. You can't expect the dealer to say, I'm going to fix your Samsung fridge. I mean, he might, depending upon what the situation is. And I'm not saying that we've had that situation, but there are a lot of components. And I think that one of the strong points that we considered when we're looking to contract with an inspector was that it was a team. And the value there is that when Pure would be inside, I'm using Pure and Laurel again, but if Pure is outside and Laurel's running the slide out, she can look for obstructions and noises on the inside as he's watching the movement on the outside. I suppose with an elaborate camera setup or something like that, you could do it, but then they'd have to accommodate all that labor and setup to do all that. So I think I'd rather have 2 sets of human eyes on there as well. 2 eyes are always better, I think, than 1 on anything. And that's, I think, what you get with a team of inspectors.
Yeah, but also, I mean, if you talk about dealers too, I mean, you're asking about the dealer experience, and I will tell you the other thing, that one of the great things we loved about our dealer is they weren't just like, okay, you bought it, goodbye.
Right.
They were literally trying, even before we signed the dotted line. It was, okay, in order for you to get this incentive, you actually have to leave with the unit. And so we're like, okay, but we can't, because we have we want to make sure everything's fixed. So we had to leave, take it for a little ride, come back, and then come in for service. And then I had to fly the next day, literally like the next day, to Chicago for work. And
Wow.
it was like, how am I going to do this? I'm leaving him behind with the dogs. I'm taking our vehicle. Like, how are we going to do this? And they're like, don't worry about it. We will figure everything out, because you are not leaving here without your unit being safe for you to travel. We're not leaving here without fixing these inconvenience things that can't wait until you get to Newmar for warranty work. We're not going to push you out of here. He stayed in the in the parking lot as like a campground. They hooked him up for like a week while I was traveling. And
So
they could have been more accommodating.
I would like to try to wrap this up a little bit. So
Sure.
if you were what's the biggest takeaway? Because there's a lot of people, I think, that are in our age range that are in the same position as you, that, you know what, our health is still good. We've got the finances. We want to do this. What would you advise me in 1 minute each? What would you advise me to do and not do so my wife and I can be happy campers like you guys?
Yeah. First and foremost is get an inspection, find an inspector you're comfortable with, and make sure that you get it done. I mean, I don't know where we would be if we didn't have the inspection. We would be spending money down the road that would be a lot more than that inspection cost. So get the inspection immediately, because you do have a limited time for your warranty. So if you get that inspection, you've got your list, get your warranty work scheduled right away. Because to Joe's point, this is our third time, but we're getting 3 times within the warranty period because we're proactive about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to leave this warranty period feeling like we got pretty much everything fixed. Now, doesn't mean things won't break. Like I said, you're driving down a road and it's an earthquake every day that you're driving, but there's going to be things that broke, but at least we're leaving now feeling like, if I had bought the RV after all the warranty work, I would feel like we would pass an inspection without anything. So
what do you think
get
about
that inspection.
What do you think about people that spend a lot of money purchasing a motorhome and then they don't use it, like Joe and Domani use yours,
You gotta
and
use it.
you got to use it,
It's
right,
funny.
Joe?
Well, everybody's, like I said, everybody's got a different situation. Everybody's got a different story. I've been at Newmar getting service, and I talked to a gentleman who literally drove from Colorado to Newmar to get rid of his Super C because wife didn't like the way that it rode, so they're going to get into a Londoner. Those are deep pockets. I mean, if you can afford to have it and not use it, and you can afford to maintain it while not being proactive because it just doesn't hurt, then that's fine. But I don't want to buy that unit. I don't want to buy that one used. I think that if I was approaching this again at any age, I want my first purchase to be my last purchase, hopefully, right? I want to find the last RV I'm going to buy the first time, because you're going to take a hit on maintaining them, selling them, all the things that come with any vehicle when you have to get rid of it, or you choose to get rid of it and get into something else. It comes at a cost. And in my background, I worked in IT and stuff, and it was always reliability, serviceability, and price. Those are kind of the things that I always tried to focus on. It needs to work, and if it breaks, I need to be able to fix it. Now I need to figure out, how much is it going to cost, right? Because if it's not working, I'm going to have to keep fixing it. At some point, I made the wrong choice. So if you set a budget, whatever that budget is, if it's $35,000 or it's $1,300,000, and that's your budget, then I'd say go find the coach you want. Go to all the shows, look at the new ones, look at the used ones. Maybe it's not a new one that you want because of the floor plan, but if it's within your budget and you get it inspected and it passes inspection, then I would say enjoy it. I think that's.
But I think you also have to use it right away, because you do only have that short warranty, and you have to get. But even if it's used, you want to use it, and they always say the shakedown trips, right? We kind of did a pre-shakedown by renting what we thought we were going to buy and taking that on a trip first, to say, is that what we wanted? We didn't have that opportunity to rent a Newmar before, but at least that helped us go, okay, this isn't the right one for us, and got us to this. But this, getting into, even us, like we drove it all the way from Texas basically to Newmar first. So we had a lot of time in it initially, but we're full time, so we're in it all the time, right?
Right.
But not everybody is. I think if you're not going to use it full time, plan a lot of trips initially that first year so that you can find the things that are wrong, because you won't know just by walking around in it. It's living in it that you're going to find those things.
Yeah, well, I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and it's so nice to meet people that are happy, that did their homework, that are flexible. Because 98 things, I think you said, Joe. You got, I mean, some are little bitty
Oh,
things, but a
well,
lot of you've
Yeah.
got to be, I say to be a happy camper, you need to be informed, you need to be educated, you need to be flexible.
yep.
And you
Yeah.
better be able to adapt to these situations, because they will come when you don't want them to come.
And I think you need to do your research. You do, because we've met a lot of people that while we're sitting getting work done on our RV. I mean, I met a couple just recently. We had to get something done at the Freightliner dealer, and I'm talking to this couple, and they had a Newmar, and they were multiple times back trying to get it fixed at their dealer. And I'm like, go to Newmar.
Yeah.
Why aren't you going to Newmar? You need to take that trip and get to Newmar before your warranty's up. And they're like, oh, well, that's what our dealer. So making sure you have a good dealer that's going to give you the good advice. Our dealer made sure we knew, go get it fixed at Newmar while you're under warranty.
I'm not sure the dealer's role when they move new inventory. In our case as well, I'm not convinced that they're not acting more as a distributor than a dealer where you get dealer services. Well, they know that Napanee is there for you, and they can send that work there, right? And they still pocket the sale. You'll come back for the local stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't think that through until when you're in Napanee and you're sitting in the room with all kinds of coach owners, not just Superstar, they're Dutch Star.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you bought it, right? I bought mine from Holiday World. I'm ecstatic. There's people there from other dealers. I don't mention them, but all of the ones that advertised Newmar, there was probably a customer from all of those dealers. There's also somebody in the same room with me one time when I was there that took delivery from Newmar, which is an option that Newmar offers. So I think the takeaway for me was they're all going to have problems. It's not up to the dealer to sort them out. And even the guy that took delivery at Newmar was still sitting in the room next to me, and that comes at a cost if you want that true white glove treatment where you got Newmar personnel in Napanee saying congratulations, making special parking spots and everything for those people. They're still there though, getting stuff sorted out. So a discount sounds
Doesn't matter where you get it.
It's going to sound negative. It's going to sound negative, but you got to think about this. The coaches are built, and I can only speak of the Newmar. The coaches are built. They go through a production line. The staff that builds a $350,000 coach might build $1,300,000 coach because it's the next one that's coming down. And this is the truth, right? And if they find any issues during this process, they stop and they get the team. So if it's already past tile, the tile floor is going in one piece. But if when they're building it, they see that there's a cracked tile, they get somebody from the tile department. They come in, they fix the tile before it goes further into production. All the cabinets, all of the woodwork in a Newmar, if you flip the back of it, it's got your coach ID. They're not just run. We need 11 inches, 11 and 1/16 inch. Make 55 of these because we got so many coaches to make. No, everyone is made and about tight to the 16th of an inch. So there's just an awful lot of intimate time spent between the people building it and the coach that gets delivered. But then it goes after another inspection process before it gets handed off. The dealer looks at it, right? And then my inspection, and I still found all these problems. So think about how many people have looked and touched at this thing. It's been hours, outside resources twice, right? The dealer, right? And my inspection, and still. So some of this probably came from, as Domani says, shakedown. Some of it comes from just being really close and personal with the thing when you're out there, waxing it or spending time. And some of it possibly could have happened as road damage, but blistering paint, things like that you don't see unless you're on a 8-foot ladder and in front of it.
And when you're buying it, you're so excited, and you're just like, You get overwhelmed with the
Honeymoon.
beauty of the interior. Oh, look at this storage capacity.
Right.
And you get all excited about all these
Closing
little,
drawers.
yeah, you get all excited about those things. So you overlook some of the
Right.
little things that you wouldn't
Right.
overlook when you're actually living in it. I mean,
So
we
get
sat
an inspection. Get an inspection
get
is what
an
I keep hearing.
inspection.
You know what? And
That
I'll
is
leave
it.
you with this.
Yep.
I'll leave you with this.
Get an
I am-
inspection and follow
I am
through on your warranty.
Honestly, I am honestly considering doing follow-up inspections, maybe every 2 years, but locally, so that I can reduce my costs. So if I could go to whoever the team is that I choose, and I could say, "Hey, will you inspect this thing? It's already been done once, but I've been on the road for 3 years. What are you going to charge me? You mean hourly rate or give me a flat rate to run through this thing?" I'm not sure it's a bad idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that
You know
idea.
what I'm saying?
And,
You know what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
quite frankly, some of
Be
the things,
proactive.
yeah,
So that, do you know you had an LP leak?
yeah,
No?
it's
We
safety
don't,
for
but-
safety, because people don't realize that a lot of the things that you find could be safety issues.
Right.
And if you're, you're on the road, you're shaking this thing up constantly. I mean, that's why we've talked about possibly doing an inspection every couple of years, just for safety, if nothing else.
Right.
Joe and Domani's story is a powerful reminder that being a happy camper isn't just about the RV you buy. It's about how you buy it. They did their homework. They rented before committing to full-time RV life. They found a great dealer. And most importantly, they invested in a thorough, and I mean a thorough inspection by Pierre and Laurel with Blue Ox on the Run RV Inspections. Thanks to that inspection, they uncovered issues before they became costly problems, which gave them peace of mind and a real head start on their warranty work. If you're considering an RV purchase, I hope that you'll take a page out of Joe and Domani's playbook. Do your research, work with a reputable dealer, a great dealer, and don't skip the inspection. It's an investment that could save you many thousands and make all the difference in your RV experience. For more information about Blue Ox on the Run, a link to them is in the description down below. They seem to be really great folks. Today's video was a long one, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, be safe, have fun, play nice, and don't leave your good manners at home. I'm the RV Wingman, and I'll see you on the road.